Here we have the Leatherman Surge. I have to say, I picked this tool up a month or two ago and I absolutely love this thing. It is awesome. It's basically, the best way to describe this tool is a Leatherman Wave on steroids. I have no better way to explain it. It's almost the same design in almost every regard except it's bigger. And it's not a whole lot bigger, but it is a much more capable multi-tool. I would actually classify this as a heavy-duty multi-tool, just because of how much heavier it is, how much larger the handles are, how much thicker the pliers are. It's a really good multi-tool. I'm going to go ahead and compare and contrast it to the Wave a little bit, just because the Wave is a good benchmark reference. So just for comparison, I'm going to bring a Leatherman Wave out, and we're going to go ahead and compare and contrast just some basic features to kind of demonstrate how much bigger or smaller these two tools are in relation to each other. I think a lot of people who are looking at the Leatherman Surge will either have a Leatherman Wave already because they want the Surge because they like the Wave so much, or they're comparing and contrasting between these two models because they're so similar. So I want to kind of show how these things look when they're next to each other. So here's the Leatherman Wave and here's the Leatherman Surge. As you can see, the Leatherman Wave is a little bit shorter. It's also a little bit narrower this way. And it may not look like a huge difference, but it really is pretty substantial. When you get it in your pocket, it definitely feels like a bigger multi-tool. The Leatherman Surge is just a little bit bulkier all around. And especially from the side there, you can tell the Leatherman Wave is thinner, shorter, it's a little bit more compact and elegant. Just for comparing and contrasting, the Leatherman Surge weighs 12.5 ounces. That's a pretty heavy multi-tool. And can you EDC that? I don't know. It depends who you are. I'm going to show you a few options in a little bit on how I EDC this tool. And maybe it'll make sense for you as well. But I would say this is a very heavy EDC tool. Might be better for backpacking, that kind of stuff. If you are using this as a daily carry, it's probably something that you use a lot to justify 12.5 ounces. By contrast, the Wave is 8.5 ounces, so a full 4 ounces lighter. So that means the Surge is about 50% heavier than the Wave. And I don't think you necessarily get 50% more capability, but depending on what you're using, maybe that extra capability is worth the extra weight to you. Let's go ahead and open these things up so you can see them next to each other with the pliers, which is probably what Leatherman is most famous for on their multi-tools. And here's where the difference really starts to get apparent. You can see both the pliers are very similar in styling. They come to a needle nose plier tip, but the Leatherman Surge is definitely thicker and it looks like a much more capable set of pliers. I've used them a bit. They are very strong, durable pliers. Nice stiff handle. You don't feel like you're going to break them. You don't feel like they're going to cause you problems. These pliers are really why you should go to Leatherman Surge. Everything else standing equal, the pliers are what sold the Leatherman Surge for me. I mean, these are a full set of fully functional pliers, where sometimes the Wave just feels a little bit small and you are a little bit worried about reaming on it too hard, concerned you might do a little damage to the wire cutters and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Wave off the table for a bit because this review is really about the Leatherman Surge. So now that you have an idea of how big the Surge is compared to the Wave, and that is a full 12.5 ounces, let's kind of go into the individual tools themselves. And you're going to notice a lot of similarities to the Wave tool because the design is almost identical, except for a couple small things. For example, the scissors are on the outside of the multi-tool, which I love. And they're nice, big, thick scissors. Check that out. You can cut a lot of thick material with this. And these are strong, precise scissors. I like them. They're great for cutting like paracord, small pieces of rope. They're a really good addition to the tool. And I love how they're on the outside, where the Wave's scissors are on the inside of the tool. And that was something I didn't really like about the scissors on the Wave. They were on the inside of the tool, and they're hard to get to when you needed them. A lot of times with the Wave, I just found myself using one of the knives instead of the scissors because it was on the outside and very accessible. So the scissors are much bigger on the Surge, and I think that was a big win for me at least. That's what really sold me on why I wanted a Surge other than the pliers. The scissors are on the outside, they're bigger and they're more capable, and they're right there ready to use. So this is a big upgrade from the Wave, these scissors, and you can really tell when you're using them. They don't feel dinky at all. They're very strong, powerful scissors. Also on the outside, you have the standard shape Leatherman multi-tool knife. This is your plain edge. I love how Leatherman does an all plain or all serrated blade edge. I think that was really smart because a lot of times when you want a plain edge, you don't really want a serrated edge in there interfering with the fine task that you're trying to work on. I love how the clip point comes to a nice sharp point for detail work. Yet you got a nice flat grind here, nice and thick knife blade there, and it's really rugged and good for a lot of different tasks. But the tip I find I use quite a bit on these Leatherman knives. They're just really good for detail work. Now the serrated knife, and you can tell it's a serrated knife based on these little serrations on the top of the knife blade there. It's again an all serrated blade, and I love this saying. All serrated, so you know when you're trying to cut wood or not necessarily wood, but like rope, cordage, fabric, whatever it may be. Fact is, you have an entire edge to saw against, you know, rather than just this little, you know, 1-inch section. I find that to be very useful when you're trying to tear through a lot of material really quickly. So big win on Leatherman with the serrated blade. And just for compare and contrast, I'm going to pull the serrated blade out of the Wave here, and I wanted to point something out. So the Surge blade is definitely a little bit thicker, and it probably stand up to a little bit more rugged use, but look how similar in length these two knives are. The body of the Surge when closed is 4.5 inches long. The body of the Wave tool is only 4 inches long. And one of the things that I was a little disappointed in, I have to be honest, is for an additional 1/2 inch that you have to carry in your pocket on the Surge, you do not get an additional 1/2 inch on the blade length. And I kind of wish you did. You're putting in a full another 1/2 inch in your pocket, you're carrying that additional weight, and you don't really get that much longer of a blade. And this is similar to the straight edge blade as well, but I thought it was easier to show with the serrated blade. That was one of the things I was disappointed in. It is an excellent blade, don't get me wrong. It's 420 HC steel, which is a good knife blade, or knife material, just the same as the straight edge there. But, I mean, I kind of wish it was just a little bit longer. I'm sure Leatherman has their reasons, but I figure if you're going to be carrying a multi-tool this big, you're carrying it because you use it a lot and you need the bigger tool. So a little bit larger knife would have been nice. I definitely think the knives are thicker on the Surge tools than they are on the Wave. So not all is lost. You do get a thicker, more robust knife. I just kind of wish it was a little longer. And then I'm going to go ahead and jump to the saw and file. And this is an interesting feature of this particular multi-tool. So these blades are interchangeable, and this is kind of a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. I like the fact you get two functions for the same handle space. This is just stored in your sheath or vice versa. But my issue with this is you lose all this area for cutting, and you have a narrower blade, and I don't think it's as functional as, say, a dedicated saw or a dedicated file. And I don't really use the file that much. For me, it's not really a tool that's heavily used in my multi-tool. I would have been okay if they left the file out. I know some people use it a lot, so they try to give you options. But I don't use the file a whole lot. I would have preferred they left it out and then made a dedicated saw blade that's a little thicker, a little longer, and more capable. So that was my one thing I would have changed on the Leatherman Surge. But it is nice you get both functions. It's just this function I'm not going to use very much, me personally. So that's a cool new feature though, I have to admit. Leatherman did think that through, and they tried to think of all the different things you might want on a tool. And I like how it's outside accessible. I like how it is a pretty good sized tool. If you compared it to the Wave, that's going to be about the same length as the saw on that. So it's a good saw. I just wish it was a dedicated one. But that's my personal preference. Your mileage may vary. Let's go ahead and open up into the interior here. Showing the pliers, let's get a closer look from what I was showing earlier. These are nice, precise pliers. You see the tip kind of comes down to a nice point. Not much gap in there. It's all rounded off here. That works really good when you're working in tight places, trying to pry something loose or open up some stitching. I really like the pliers on here. These wire cutters are really capable. We got the soft and hard wire cutters. And a lot of people don't realize this, but back here you have wire strippers or wire crimpers. Well, they're really wire crimpers, but that's a really handy tool too if you ever need it. Or if your wire cutters break up here, you could probably cut small wire down in the back of the cutter head there. So in here it's almost identical to the Leatherman Wave, except for you don't have scissors. You have this beautiful flat screwdriver, or what I like to call a chisel. That's a huge screwdriver. That's a nice chisel in my mind. When you got gunk and whatnot, you can use that to chip it right off. That's a nice, strong, robust chisel. And instead of the scissors, you have an awl, and that is awesome. Thank you, Leatherman. You replaced the teeny scissors on the inside with an awl. That really excited me when I found that out. I was just like, awesome, an awl. Some people use these a lot, some people don't. I use an awl all the time. I love it for some of the woodworking and stuff I do. I mean, it's a great addition to the multi-tool. So that was a big win in my book. And then also tucked in here, you have the eyeglass screwdriver kit, which I don't wear glasses, but I do find this to be nice. I use this on guns a lot, to be honest. Like when you're trying to sight your gun in, a lot of times the sights on a rifle or a pistol have really small adjustment knobs. This works great for that. So this end of the tool I really like. Moving on to the other side, you got your standard bit exchanger, which is great because I already have a set of bits that go with my Leatherman Wave, and they fit the same bit. So that was awesome. You got this fits the bits that come out of the Wave. The Wave, they're all interchangeable. So whatever one you're taking for the day, you can just grab your bit kit and you're good to go. And also in here, you have your bottle opener / can opener, whatever else you want to call it. Wire stripper on there. So this is the same old can opener, bottle opener that's on all the Leatherman tools. A pretty good design. A lot of people like the Victorinox one better. I actually like this one for most things. I mean, it just works really good. Let's see, what else am I missing here? I think that's about it. Oh, let's talk a little bit about philosophy here. I was talking about how heavy this multi-tool is. At 12.5 ounces, you're going to need to find a way to efficiently carry this. So what I did is I noticed that this multi-tool has the same lanyard attachment ring that a lot of people put pocket clips in. And this makes a world of difference. Having almost a pound of metal sitting in the bottom of your pocket just doesn't work. It's going to be banging around, getting in the way. It's not going to be oriented correctly when you want to go to grab it. I find if you just have it in the bottom of your pocket, it's not very practical. You need to throw it in a car glove box or in a tool bag or what have you. What I do at my work is I use this pocket clip. Now it just slips in there, locks right in, and now you have a pocket clip. And this is great because it orients the tool so it's always vertical in your pocket. It keeps it snug to your leg so it's not bouncing around all the time, getting in the way. And it kind of, it dangles in your pocket in a way that's always hugging your leg. So as you move, it moves with your leg. and it's not fighting your movements. And this makes the tool feel so much lighter. And I do the same thing on my Wave. I'm sure you saw that earlier. And if you do not have a pocket clip for your Leatherman, it costs like $5 on Amazon.com. I highly recommend you go out and get one. It's a very inexpensive upgrade, and it makes a world of difference when you're trying to carry this day to day. The rule I use for if I should carry this particular multi-tool is when I'm leaving in the morning, do I have a 50% chance of using this tool that day? If the answer is yes, I carry my Surge. If the answer is no, I usually carry my Wave or Charge TTI. The reason I say that is it's a more capable tool, and with the pocket clip on there, it fits nice and snugly in your pocket. So if I'm at work, I'm going to need pliers, maybe the knife blade, the serrated blade, or maybe the scissors for cleaning up some wire or whatever. I want to have the more capable tool. But if I'm just out and about running groceries or just the standard errand running on like the weekend, I'd like to carry the lighter multi-tool with me because the chance of me needing it is not as high. So that's how I do it. For me, I'm a pretty big guy and I use the multi-tool quite a bit. The 12.5 ounces, while it can be noticeable at times, it's definitely doable. With the pocket clip, it's not a burden when you're trying to move around, and you're glad to have the extra capabilities when you reach for that tool. I went ahead and got some multi-tools out to talk about cost real quick. I picked up this Leatherman Surge for around $70. You might be able to beat that. You might not be able to, depending on demand at whatever time you're watching this. But you're looking at about $70 to buy the Leatherman Surge here, which in my mind is definitely worth it. Then you're looking at about $50, $55 for the Leatherman Wave, which in my mind it's a pretty good bargain. I think this tool is worth a lot more than that. I use it a ton. It's a great deal for me. I would definitely buy the Leatherman Wave in a heartbeat without thinking about it. Which brings me to the Leatherman TTI that I just brought out. You're going to find this tool for around $110 or so, give or take. That's a lot of money for a multi-tool, especially when this tool is no more capable than the Leatherman Wave. In fact, the only real difference between this tool and the Leatherman Wave is the titanium scales and the S30V straight edge. The serrated edge on the Leatherman TTI is the same material as the Wave, but that's a different review altogether. The reason I bring this point up is for the price of the Leatherman Wave and the price of a Leatherman Surge, you're at the price of a Charge TTI. So would you rather have one multi-tool that's not necessarily a whole lot more capable than the $50 Wave, or would you rather have two fully functional multi-tools that are available for your use depending on what comes up that day in exchange for just one? I just want to throw that out there. You put these two together, you have about $120. It's around the same price as just one multi-tool. I think Leatherman Surge is a great tool. I think the Leatherman Wave is a great tool. I would be really tempted, guys, if you have $120 and you're considering the Charge TTI, maybe consider buying two Leatherman instead. So this is my review on the Leatherman Surge. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, like, and check out my other videos.